It's the off season for LSU football with baseball now at home watching. It's football season down here in South Louisiana, entering his fourth season as LSU's defensive coordinator, considered one of the top defensive minds in college football. LSU's DC, Dave Aranda, kind enough to join us here on this morning's edition of Off the Bench. Good morning. How are you, Coach?
Hey, doing great. Doing good.
Another successful NFL draft for the Tigers as you guys produced the fifth overall pick. As we said, you're widely recognized as one of the top minds, but what has it done for you and the defensive side of the ball at LSU since you took a tailback out of Louisiana a couple of years ago, one of the top running backs in the state, and put him on the defensive side of the ball and made him the Butkus Award winner and the fifth overall pick in the draft?
Well, our linebacker recruiting has really gone well. I think I was commenting with Ronnie Wheat and with Coach O the other day of just when we first started, we would be very adamant about trying to follow the top linebackers in the country and try to get in contact with them and try to get them to call us and all of it, with the rules being the way they are. And there's struggles at the if I remember right, there was kind of hit and miss, and we're not missing too much anymore. We're getting a lot of calls back, and we're getting people looking at us and all of it. So it's that's a positive. You thank Devin White for that. And Devin's been such a great ambassador. I can't tell you how many people, whether it is linebackers or their families or their coaches, that bring up Devin and just how he handled himself. He rode the horse into Tiger Stadium. Just in the interview, they saw him just, right outside of practice or at a bull site, and they noticed he was signing all the autographs and he was taking time to talk to everybody. That goes so far. That is beyond words. All of it, the power that has, and that's a credit to Devin and his family. But and I know you guys know, but everyone notices, so it's pretty cool.
It's still one of my favorite quotes that you made to Coach O early on the speaking tour when you guys were just getting started at LSU, was that you guys had more kickers on the roster than you did linebackers. Now it seems like the linebackers are catching up. Who's in line to take his place, to take White's spot?
We've got a lot of good competition over there. I mean, we've got Patrick Queen, Jacob Phillips. They're competing over there. We got Mike Divinity. I think, we're trying to do things with – we've got some bigger guys. I think, I look at the linebacker group that we've got. I think just stepping back just as a whole, the talent that we have, finding roles for the talent that we got, finding positions or opportunities for guys to kind of settle in and own and make plays with. I think when whether it's a safety spot, whether it's a D-line spot, whether it's throughout the defense, when it's specifically inside linebackers, when I look at it, we've got some guys that have some height to them, have some weight to them. Maybe it's a little bit different in the past. We got a few guys who are built like Kendall Beckwith back in that particular year. And so I think, there's a best way to kind of play that guy. And then we've got some guys that are similar to Devin, where they're maybe not as big, but can start fast, stop fast, cover fast, and all that. And so trying to play guys into those roles. So I'm excited about that. And then, that just allows the defense some creativity and everything. And so, it all starts with the players. I think I know we've got a really good group. I'm, so far so good with everything in the summer, how they're progressing. I'm looking forward to see them go in the fall.
Talking to LSU defensive coordinator Dave Aranda here on Off the Bench. And, Coach, one thing that we've talked about a lot over the last couple of years has been the additional the addition of a lot of staff members, like the kind of shadow staff. These are analysts, but we always talk about it from the offensive side of the ball. What's the current setup defensively as far as the analysts and how, just the logistics of it? How does that input work? How impactful are they in getting you ready for the season?
I think it's great. We've got a great group. We got Aaron Swans. He's been with us the last 2 years. He coached with me at Wisconsin, was a GA. He's been at Southeastern Louisiana previously. We got Roy Anderson. Roy was a GA at LSU. back a couple of years ago. Has been in the NFL, the Colts, the Baltimore Ravens, 49ers, was with the Bears recently the last 2 years. So he's been around a bunch of great defensive minds, guys that I particularly admire and look up to, and so he's been a great resource. Kevin Cosgrove, like I remember, growing up and watching the UCLA Bruins just get whooped by the Wisconsin Badgers in the Rose Bowl, and that was Coach Cosgrove was a huge part of that. Was coordinator during Wisconsin's heyday with Coach Alvarez, and so it's an honor to have him around, and just his experience and his breadth of knowledge and everything. And we got Kevin Coyle back, which is a huge get. Coach Coyle, I remember driving when I was in Division III. I was a student assistant. I remember driving to Fresno to go visit with Coach Coyle when he was a coordinator at Fresno State, and he was one of the first guys I've ever met where he had voiceover tapes. So he would talk through quarters coverage, and he'd go, Dave, good to meet you, and he'd send me in a room, and I'd listen to his teach tape. He had 8 hours of teach tapes and quarters, and I'm all taking notes. And then I graduated to where I could ask questions, and then, so it was just, that was such an awesome time. So to have like those guys at the disposal, I think I visit with a bunch of coaches as they come throughout here. There's one right now who's visiting today, and so from different colleges and that, and it's apparent. And I think this, I say this to answer your question because I feel like just different models, different, I guess, leadership styles. It's apparent when you're talking to people, the systems they have, the people that come visit, the systems they have, just how they coach. It's more or less, hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is it. This is what it's going to be. You're going to do what I'm saying you're going to do. And I've been on staffs like that, and I think there's a lot of merit to that. I think it's good because you all know kind of the one voice and where it's coming from. And I haven't necessarily been like that. I've been, and there's a time obviously where that is the case, but I think the earlier you can attack something and get different viewpoints and learn different strategies and different ideas, and then try to incorporate the best of the both of differing opinions and try to come up with something new or better, then I like that. And so that melting pot of guys we just mentioned is pretty cool to have around because we kick it around a couple times, so I think we all get better for it.
Well, and it's interesting because that kind of collaborative effort that you're describing there, talk about the offensive side of the ball a bit. Like that's what it's been since Coach Insminger's been that offensive coordinator, really creating that offense from the ground up. And then obviously Joe Brady comes in this year, and coaches is something that LSU fans are used to hearing, that this is the year when the offense is going to be different. It's going to change. Nobody has better insight into the current state of the LSU offense than you, the man that has to face them every single day. What did you see out of LSU offensively in this spring session?
Well, early on, I think the thing that strikes you first is Joe Burrow. I think there is a calmness, a confidence, a readiness. I don't think Joe is not one to be easily shook. Joe was prepared. He knew where to go with the ball, and so early in spring, I don't think we were still transitioning to get the pads on and stuff. And I remember Coach O was leaving, like coming from a one-on-one. He was walking over, and he goes, "Dave, how's it going?" And it's just it was striking. You could see it right away that Joe knows where to go with the ball. And so I think I said something like that to him, but that was pretty consistent throughout the spring. It was, I think, so you give credit to Joe, you give credit to the coaches on our offensive side. They do a great job of, I think, the people that we play are very adept at reading coverages. Hey, there's these 3 or 4 options, but read this one guy because when he's aligned like this, 80% of the time, this is what he does. So just kick it over here. That's where we're at as an offense. So like if we tipped anything, the ball is out to the best spot, the safest spot, and it's difficult to get hands on quarterbacks. It's difficult to pressure quarterbacks when that's the case. And so that was very impressive. The second thing that strikes you is the skill of the receivers. And so the abundance of option routes where they're just working off of people's leverages, I think that's a huge difference from the past, where I think there was elements of that, but not as much. And I think it just ties in with the athletes that we have and the type of kind of mind and savviness we have at quarterback, where they can just read a leverage and build a. You look at all the success that Alabama had with that type of structure, just seeing shells and, reading off leverages and throwing it and guys being on the same page. And the third thing I would say would be and this would be the Saints' influence, would be the amount of backs that are getting out. I think it makes it difficult when there's just speed everywhere and you're playing empty quite a bit. And so it's challenging to you. I think it's going to be a good mix. There's certainly enough for everybody in all of it. We're seeing it. So I'm thankful for it. I think it'll make us better defensively in the end of it, but it's quite a bit.
That's fantastic news from the top defensive mind in college football. Dave Aranda joining us here, ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Alexandria. You get K'Lavon Chassall back. By all accounts, he looks as good as he was before he got injured last year. What's he bring to your unit?
We were looking at the other day with some of the analysts, by the way, we were looking at some of our pressures off the edge, and when we bring like a nickel or corner or safety off the edge, we slant Caleb, that outside linebacker position inside, bring in somebody outside, and we move the outside guys in like that. And we're talking about the technique of doing that. There's a couple different ways you can do that, and the most aggressive way is to kind of take a step in and then stab off that foot and jump in that B gap and get vertical and attack it. And we're looking at it, and we're kind of kicking it back. Is this the best way? Is that looking at NFL teams that are doing it, and what's the best way to get it done? And we look back at last year when we were doing it in fall camp, and we're looking at K'Lavon. I think we had about 30 examples pulled up, and he beat his tackle, I think, like 28 out of those 30 times. And so we go, let's do it that way. It made it simple. So when you have guys like that, those decisions are made pretty easily. Just makes life easier. And so those are guys like we talked about before that you could try to feature. And the more that K'Lavon has a three-way go, the more that tackles on an island, and the better it is for all of us.
Coach Aranda, we're talking to LSU defensive coordinator Dave Aranda here on Off the Bench. I want to ask you about your defensive line, and really specifically the nose guard position, because to me, when I look at a guy like Tyrus Shelvin, when I saw the Ipuake this spring, although you've had some good statistical nose guards in the past, seems like this is the first time maybe we have that real space eater for the 3-4 defense. What do you think about your current defensive line?
They've got I think both of them have good athleticism and good pop, and then you're right, they will take up some space, and I feel like the more we can get them or try to feature them in a one-on-one, I think the better they'll be. I think there's times where we're going to line up with that nose with 2 4 eyes to either side, and he's right over the center, and at that point it becomes kind of the center's thinking, I'm going to push you, and the nose has got to be thinking, I'm going to push you. And I think there's a time for all of that. I think a couple of years ago that was more or less most of the time. What we're trying to do now is to keep the 4 eyes and or a 3 and an outside linebacker on the other side of it, so that we can move the nose to a shade and get him lined up on the outside and get him going vertical. And I think a lot of Apu's and Tyler's plays came from that position, because we've really kind of forced the offense to single block him. If we can get into an O-line 5-on-5 alignment where we can get a one-on-one block with either of those guys, that's a win for us. And so the ability to try to do that, and then again having the 3-way go built in to where the one-on, it only makes the one-on-one better because they have to treat you honest, I think is good. But, Tyler has incredible athleticism. For his athleticism for a big man I haven't really seen anything like it. And so
Wow.
the more mature he gets just with the day-to-day grind and attack that's required, I think the better he'll be. The sky's the limit for him. And then Apu, he brings such he walks in the room, man, everyone starts smiling. Everyone, his energy that he brings is very strong. And I think, his ability to make plays just as a freshman, not really knowing what's going on, but just using just sheer athleticism and kind of savvy, I think speaks volumes. I think once he becomes kind of grounded in technique and pad level, being low and all this thing, I think the better he'll be.
I hate to rush you on an answer, but I get to get one on the way out. Derek Stingley Jr. He seems like he's been here for 4 years.
That's a positive thing. I think what's striking about Derek is just his calmness in everything. I think there's when you watch players, I think, and they're learning new skills, and they're in kind of the bright lights, whatever that environment will be. It could be, a first spring game. It could be, a fall scrimmage. It could be the first game, which we're going to see with Derek here coming up. But so far, any of those big, learning something new, big environment, bright lights, eyes on him, being one-on-one, just you on an island, he's taken that in stride, man, just eating that up, almost like give me more.
Wow.
And that is what is so rare. There's guys that are athletic, can run and jump and do all this, but generally there's a learning curve. Generally, hey man, there's going to be this is going to be some pressure. Hey, there's this. There's none of that with him. All of that is just taken in stride, and so there's a comforting feel. You feel like it's a veteran, and I have to keep reminding myself that it's not, But there's nothing that phases him, and so his confidence and his ease of manner, puts me at ease. So it's pretty cool.
Dave Aranda, LSU defensive coordinator. Thank you for the time this morning. Looking forward to the fall.
Hey, you got it. We'll see you guys.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Coach.
Here he is, Dave Aranda, checking in. We'll be back and close out hour one.
Off the bench with Kalana and T-Bob.